Welcome back to the Between Sundays podcast, a Christian podcast that explores the gospel message and encourages holding God's word close to your heart between Sundays. It's Nathan. We're here for part 4 of the Unity study, something we've been working towards for quite some time now. Really have enjoyed the time that we've spent looking at what Unity is, what Unity isn't, and then all the different aspects of how we can use it in our daily life, right? And so if you think about the different parts that we've looked at, right, we've looked at unity in the church, unity in the home, unity in the relationships. But where do we spend, I would go to say, probably 90% of our time, right, in our daily life? That's at work. So today we're going to look at unity in the workplace and talk about how we can really put that into action. And you'll notice today as we're talking that a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about sound very similar or might even be the exact same as things we've talked about before in this unity study. I want to start by bringing out a point that I talked about in last episode, and that unity in the workplace starts with working in the same direction. We talked about that in a relationship too, of you've got to be aiming for the same goal. The same thing happens in the workplace. You've got to have the same goal in mind. There's got to be something common there for you guys to work towards. If there's not a common goal, there's really nothing that's going to get done. I thought about it as playing tug of war. I've used this point quite a bit in my own personal discussions and my own personal readings and everything. But playing tug of war, nobody really moves anywhere because you're pulling in opposite directions. There's no unity there because you're pulling in opposite directions, but nothing's getting done either way. But if you pulled in the same direction, a lot more would get done, and there would be some unity in the way you're pulling. And so, like I said, I talked about this in part 3, but I want to bring it out again, that it's hard to have unity when everyone has a different goal in mind. If you work for a Fortune 500 company, right, and your goal at the end of every day is to make the company a better place than it was when you first got there, but someone next to you, working in the next cubicle to you, has the idea of, well, I'm going to try to do everything I can to tank this company and make it worse than it was when I got here, nothing's really going to get done because you're not working in the same direction. We've got 2 places in Scripture that we're going to be today. We've got one from Philippians 2 and one from Ephesians 4. Both of these are Paul letters, and if you've noticed a common theme as we've been talking about unity, there's been a lot of Paul letter references here, again, because Paul letters are very applicable to our life, and I feel like that's just something that, it's easier to use, it's easier to, to understand what's going on, but also these were written to real life, everyday people experiencing real life, everyday things like we do. So we're going to be in Philippians chapter 2 to start. Philippians chapter 2, verse 2. I'll give you a second to get there, and then I'll start reading, and then we'll hit the points that I've got for this one. So it says, "Fulfill ye my joy, that ye be like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind. Let each esteem other better than themselves. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others." So I said this earlier, but I'm going to say it again. In order to have unity in the workplace, there has to be a common goal. And we see that in verse 2 where it says one accord. One accord. You've got to be working together, right? I'm a teacher. You guys know that. But one thing that I always say when we do group work in my classes, that you have to be working together. You can't be dividing up, right? We're doing end of year test review, and I've got them working in groups right now. And some of my groups are really, really good at dividing the problems up and saying, well, you take these, and I'll take these. That kind of defeats the purpose of the end of the year test review. I want them to work together so that maybe a student who's lacking in geometry can get help from a student who's really good in geometry, and the student that's lacking in geometry can help someone else in something else, right? You see where my brain's going with this. But they've got to be in one accord. They've got to be working together. So when I think about one accord, I think of a rope. And I'm sure you've probably seen a rope before. A rope's great when it's all like bound together and it's all tight and it's, there's nothing frayed or there's nothing, really sticking out anywhere. It works great. It serves its purpose well. But you let one strand start to unravel, you let one strand start to not be in the place that it should, and the rope starts to weaken. The same thing happens in our workplace. The same thing happens, in whatever group we're working with. If one person's not where they need to be, if one person's not in unity with the rest of the group, it starts to affect the whole group, right? If one person in your workplace, right? Let's say you work with 12 people and one of those people doesn't agree with something that's going on. Eventually, it's not going to take long for more people to not agree with what's going on, because that one person's going to tell this person, and then that person's going to tell somebody else, and it's going to spread around, and it's going to be really hard to get anything done because you don't have unity going on, because you don't have everybody working towards that same goal, because it started with one person saying, I don't really know how to feel about this. I don't. And I said this in the intro to this episode, right? I talked about, working for a Fortune 500 company. But if you and your best friend worked for the same Fortune 500 company, right? You had cubicles right next to each other, and your goal every day was to make the company better than it was. And then your best friend, their idea or their goal was to make the company worse than it was, right? We think about, those things might just cancel each other out, right? Like your good efforts, their bad efforts might just cancel each other out. They wouldn't cancel each other out, in my opinion. And I hope that maybe through listening to this, you might think the same thing. Because there's not unity there, it's going to be an automatic negative, right? That's just going to make the workplace a worse place to be. Again, I said it earlier, right? We spend probably 90% of our day, 90% of the time that we're awake. I'll cut that back. I don't want to say 90. 75% of the time that we are awake at work, right? We spend a good majority of our time at work. And if it's a negative place to be, why would we want to be there? If there's no unity there, if there's no getting along, why would we want to be there? And I think about, as a Christian, we're told, to not be, pot stirrers and not be, people who drive up rumors and strife and all these different things. We're meant to be, and I use this term sometimes of glue people, right? Glue people. They kind of just hold everything together. When I make groups for my kids, I try to put at least one glue kid in each group. That way, if something goes wrong, that glue kid can kind of hold it together until I can get there, right? That's the way we're called to be as Christians too, right? We're called to be glue people, to hold people together, to kind of keep everything going in the right direction towards Christ. But it's hard if there's not unity, if there's not people trying to work together, if there's not people trying to do anything the same way, if there's not any sort of commonality goal between the people, right? Again, we said it. I think we've said it in almost every episode. If we haven't, I'm sorry, I'll say it here. But, unity is not conformity. It's not you saying, well, I have to take off my values and my beliefs and my this, that, and the other in order to fit in with this group. No, it's saying, hey, look, here's the goal that I've got. Here's the goal that this group's got. We're going to put them together and we're going to work towards those goals. And we're going to work towards having those goals met. But we're going to also help each other out along the way. Right? Let's keep reading down through these verses. We're going to get down to verse 3. It says, let nothing be done through strife or vainglory. I just talked about, hey, we're called to not be people who stir up strife. We're not called to try to make ourselves look better either. But it says, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves. Put other people before yourself. Put other people before yourself. It's that simple. Don't just look out for you. Don't, right? I work with a group of teachers, and then, there's another math teacher on my hallway. We oftentimes do very similar, if not the same things as each other. So there are days where I'll stop by her room and say, hey, if you need your copies made, let me know, and I'll go make them. And there are many days where she's like, yeah, go make my copies. It's fine. And I'll make the copies for both of us. There's also days where she does the same for me, right? There's other teachers on the hall that do the exact same thing, right? I could stop by tomorrow and say, hey, look, do you need me to make your copies for this week? If you need me to, let me know. I'll go make them. I don't mind. I got nothing better to do. I'm here for the same amount of time you are, and they might have had a rough morning. I'm not looking out for myself. I'm like not saying, well, Nathan's going to take care of Nathan and let them take care of themselves. No, Nathan's saying, I know that to work better on this hallway, to make this school a better place, that we've got to have a little bit of love. We've got to have a little bit of unity. And that starts with me not being stuck up and me not saying, oh, well, they're having a rough morning. That's on them. That they'll have to figure it out. Right? No, it starts with me saying, hey, look, they might be having a rough morning. Let me go see if I can help them. Same thing goes for you. Whatever you do for work. Someone might be having a rough time. Someone might not understand what's going on. Someone might not be able to catch on as quick as you to whatever it is that you're doing. Offer to help them. Offer to help them. This can be applied to the church as well. I know we talked about unity in the church in the very first episode of this series, but we're going to talk about unity in the church right here too, because it can be applied to the workplace as well. In fact, it should be applied to the church, right? The church should have a common goal, but also the church should be helping each other. People in the church should be helping each other. If you see a brother or sister in Christ struggling, you should help them. You should, 100%. It should not be that they're fending for themselves, floundering around, beating and banging and not knowing what to do because they're struggling in their faith. You should be helping them. If nothing else, you should be praying for them. If nothing else, pray for them. Right? There are many times where, and this is not to toot my own horn, but somebody will ask me to pray for them, and I try my best to stop right there and pray for them, because I know myself, if I don't do it right then, I won't get around to it. I won't. But we've got people who say, yeah, I'll pray for you, and they never even pray. They never do that. There's no common goal there of trying to make the church a better place or trying to make the workplace a better place. They're not doing that. They're just floundering around doing whatever they want to do. Okay? Verse 4 tells us to look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. That's just being conscious of everybody around you, right? Don't just be stuck up. Don't just sit there and go, I'm going to take care of myself. It would be really easy for me to walk in tomorrow. I mean, I know I've got copies that I need to make. It would be really easy for me to go in tomorrow and say, you know what? I am not caring about anybody else. I'm going to care about Nathan. I'm going to take care of Nathan first. Right? If Nathan needs copies made, that's the copies I'm going to make. I'll make my 55 copies and get out of the way. It would be really easy. And then the people around me, I could be looking at them and say, you know what? Don't even talk to me. Don't even talk to me. I got to make my copies. You can go find somewhere else to do your stuff. It'd be really easy. But that would not mean that the workplace would be any better. Right? Again, I've said it before. My goal, anytime I go to work, is to make it better than it was the day before. If I go in tomorrow and I become stuck up and I become, just ruthless to the people around me and say, you know what, I'm not looking out for you, I'm not making the workplace any better. I'm not. I'm really not. All right, we're going to flip over to Ephesians chapter 4, verses 2 and 3. Give me just a second to turn there. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 2 and 3. It says, with all lowliness and meekness, with long-suffering, forbearing one another in love, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. Again, Ephesians is a Paul letter, wrote to the church at Ephesus. Okay? It says, with all lowliness and meekness, with long-suffering, forbearing one another in love. You have to be patient. You have to be patient to have unity in your workplace. If there is no patience, there will be no unity. There are times, I am sure, where I do something that gets on somebody that I work with nerves. I would almost guarantee that there is something every day that I do that gets on somebody's nerve. But they don't just bite my head off and jump on me and say, you know what, this bothers me, this bothers me, this bothers me, this bothers me. They let me make my mistakes. They let me do these things. Because guess what? They know that I'm going to show them the same patience. They know, hey, it might take somebody 20 minutes to make their copies when it really should only take them about 5. Okay? There are things that people have to show me 2 and 3 times because I forget how to do them. Right? There are things. And that, guess what? It would be really easy for them to jump on me and say, you know what? I'm not showing you how to do that again. But no, they show me again and I go do it. But if you want unity in your workplace, it starts with having some patience. Not everything is going to happen when and how you want it to happen. And if you go into work thinking that that's going to happen, I hate to break it to you. And if you've lived this long with that in mind, I hate to break it to you, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to. You are not the ruler of the world. You are not the ruler of the workplace. If nothing else, you are just a mere, spoke on the wheel of success, right? My dad's often said that about himself, right? He's just a mere spoke on the wheel of success. That's the way we are in our workplace. We're just a spoke on the wheel. We just do our job. We go and do our job. And if we would be more focused on going and doing our job and going and making the workplace a better place, guess what? More might get done. More might. It goes back to what I said earlier. And I don't know if I said this. I had a note for it, and I don't even know if I said it, but I'll say it right now. When pride shrinks, unity increases. When pride shrinks, unity increases. If you go into work very prideful, only looking out for yourself, unity's not going to increase. And in fact, unity's going to decrease. When pride increases, we can flip that around. When pride increases, unity shrinks. And so I think about it this way, right? Where if you work anywhere, public, private, you own your own business, you work for somebody, you work in the church, you work, at a grocery store, you work in a school, whatever, right? Not everything's going to go your way. Not everything is. We just talked about, hey, when pride shrinks, unity will increase. If we go about thinking that everything's going to go my way, that pride is not shrinking. That pride is increasing, which is going to in turn cause unity to decrease. Right? It's not going to go your way. In fact, and it's probably going to not go your way more than it would ever go your way. Okay? I think about times, working on this podcast. Okay, there have been times where me and, not saying that me and Ryland have ever really disagreed on anything that we've put out, but, there might be a time in the future, or, this is all hypothetical stuff, but, something might happen and me and Ryland might disagree on something. Well, if I'm like, you know what? I have just as much control over, our YouTube, and hey, we're also on Spotify. I'm going to put a shameless plug in there. We're also on Spotify. So if you're listening on Spotify, hi, welcome. But I have just as much control over the YouTube and the Spotify and, the TikTok that we've got and all these different things. I've got just as much control as he does. So once he posts it, I'm going to go back behind his back and delete it. I'm hurting everything that we've built. Everything. And it's really nothing that we've built. It's everything that the Lord's allowed us to do. But at the same time, I'm destroying it all by saying, you know what? I don't agree with that, so I'm going to tear it down. And we've got people in the workplace who do that. We do. People. You might be that person. If you are that person, I'm going to encourage you to look at yourself in the mirror tomorrow morning whenever you get ready for work and say, I'm going to go and I'm going to try to be a member of the unity, of whatever unity is there. And I promise you, if you start doing it, other people are going to notice it and they're going to be like, hey, I'm going to join in too. If you are not focused on whatever the common goal is, then you are not adding to the unity, right? My preacher today at church, I'm recording this on a Sunday, he talked about how a football team, everything has to go exactly right on offense, right? Everybody has to be running the exact same play. And if some person messes up on a play, it's pretty obvious and pretty easy for that play to fall apart. If you are not adding or working towards that common goal, it's pretty easy for the unity to fall apart in whatever it is, right? Whether it's the church, whether it's the home, whether it's the relationships, whether it's the workplace, whether it's, anything, any aspect of your life. If you're not adding to the common goal, right? I talked about how, a positive and a negative in the sense of unity here is not a cancellation. It's a net negative. That's the same thing. You are the net negative. You are not adding to the common goal. The whole point of working should be to bring glory to the Lord. The whole point of working and doing anything should be to bring glory to the Lord. If you're not trying to bring glory to the Lord, then what are you really working for? To bring glory to yourself? To get more money in your bank account? To build anything for yourself? Guess what? All of that's going to burn away. All of that's going to eventually just rust and rot and decay. But anything that you do to bring glory to the Lord, that's never going away. That's not going to decay. I promise. So your goal when you're at work should be, how can I bring glory to the Lord through this aspect? Through this. And in order to do that, you have to be working in unity with those around you. It's pretty simple, right? You want to bring glory to the Lord and you work with a bunch of people. Guess what? Start working with those people. Start having unity with those people. You'll bring some glory to the Lord. You all start working together. You all start trying to bring glory to the Lord. Guess what? That glory that you're bringing and that glory that they're bringing to the Lord, it's going to get added together and it's going to be tenfold. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome. This is the end of the unity study. I'm sure, we will reference this at points in future episodes. I hope that you have learned something. I have learned a lot about myself, about the way that I work with people, just from studying for these episodes. So again, I hope that you have enjoyed this. I hope you've got something from it. I talked about it just a little bit ago in the episode. I'll mention it again because I don't really know how many of you do know this, but we do have a TikTok We've not really posted anything on there other than like our, hey, this is us, this is what we do thing. So be on the lookout for that. We also have a Spotify, which should at this point have all of our episodes to date on it, hopefully. So if you want to listen and you're in your car and it's a little easier to listen to it on Spotify than it is on YouTube, so you can do that. But share with a friend, tell somebody to tell somebody. We're out here just trying to get the word out to people, not about ourselves, but about the Lord. But again, I hope that you have enjoyed this. I hope you've got something from this. There's plenty more on our YouTube, on our Spotify for you. Just go find, if you've missed anything, go find it, listen to it. I promise it'll be good for you. But I love you guys. And just remember, hell's hot, heaven's not. I'll talk to y'all next time. See ya.